Picture this. A woman lands her dream job, the role she worked for years to achieve, the opportunity that could change her life. She celebrates, tells her friends, feels the rush of possibility. But when the first big project arrives, she procrastinates. Deadlines slip, her work falters. Soon, she's on the edge of losing the very thing she thought she wanted most. Or imagine a man who finds a partner who truly loves him. She accepts him as he is, supports him, brings him peace. But instead of trusting her, he begins to doubt. He tests her, picks fights, pushes her away. Eventually, she leaves, and he tells himself the cruel story. See, I was never lovable. Why do we do this? Why do we sabotage the very things we claim to want? On the surface, self-sabotage looks like stupidity, laziness, weakness. That's what we tell ourselves. I'm just broken. I'll never get it right. But Jung would say otherwise. He believed the unconscious is never random. Every act of sabotage carries meaning. It is not just destruction, it is communication. Jung called the shadow the dark half of the psyche. Everything we reject in ourselves, everything we exile because it feels dangerous or shameful. But what you bury doesn't vanish. It waits. And when the shadow wants to be heard, it doesn't ask politely. It takes control. That's why self-sabotage feels like possession. You know what you should do, but you can't do it. You know what you want, but you ruin it. You feel like an enemy is living inside you. And in a way, it is. The enemy is the shadow. And its sabotage is a cry for recognition. Jung would insist, self-sabotage is not failure, it's a signal. The woman with the dream job may be sabotaging because part of her believes success will bring danger, the old wound of being punished for shining too brightly. The man in love may be sabotaging because intimacy triggers the abandoned child inside him, terrified of loss. The shadow sabotages not to destroy, but to reveal, to force you to confront the parts of yourself you've tried to forget. Self-sabotage is not proof that you are weak. It is proof that the shadow is speaking. The enemy within is not against you. It is demanding to be seen. The enemy within is not born in adulthood. It takes root in childhood, in the moments too big for a child to bear, in the lessons carved into the psyche long before you knew their cost. Jung believed these wounds harden into complexes, living fragments of the psyche, frozen in time, waiting to hijack the adult you become. Picture a child who beams with pride at a drawing only to hear, "That's messy, do better." Or a child who speaks boldly only to be told, "Don't talk back." Or one who cries for comfort but is met with silence. Each moment plants a seed of shame. I'm not good enough. My voice is dangerous. My needs are a burden. The child cannot fight. They adapt. They bury parts of themselves to survive. Those buried traits form the shadow, and the shame fused with memory becomes the complex. A child cannot walk away from their family. To stay safe, they obey the rules, even when the rules kill authenticity. The child punished for ambition learns to dim their light. The child shamed for anger learns to smile when they want to scream. The child neglected learns to stop needing altogether. These sacrifices keep the child alive. But in adulthood, they become sabotage. Every time you reach for success, love, or authenticity, the old complex pulls you back, whispering, "It's not safe. Don't shine. Don't need. Don't speak." Jung warned that a complex is not just memory. It acts like a little personality of its own, capable of seizing control. That's why, in certain moments, you feel overtaken. You procrastinate as if someone else is holding you back. You lash out as if someone else is speaking through you. You collapse in shame as if you're suddenly a child again. Because in a sense, you are. The wounded child rises, still carrying the beliefs and fears of long ago, still guarding you from dangers that no longer exist. Here lies the paradox. The enemy within is not truly your enemy. The complex sabotages because it thinks it is protecting you. The abandoned child sabotages love to prevent more abandonment. The criticized child sabotages success to avoid more shame. The silenced child sabotages expression to avoid punishment. Self-sabotage is protection that has outlived its purpose. It is the child still fighting a war that ended decades ago. The enemy within was born in childhood. Complexes formed from shame, rejection, and unmet needs now sit on the throne, ruling your adult life. They sabotage not because they hate you, but because they believe they are keeping you safe. If the enemy within was born in childhood, it grows into adulthood armed with cunning strategies. Jung warned that the shadow does not always show itself directly. Instead, it sabotages silently, twisting your desires into traps, undermining your goals in ways that feel both baffling and inevitable. You want to succeed. You plan, prepare, promise yourself you'll deliver. But when the moment arrives, you stall. You scroll endlessly, clean the kitchen, do anything except the task that matters. To the outside world, this looks like laziness. But Jung would call it resistance, the shadow's refusal. Deep down, part of you fears success, or fears failure, or fears being seen. The shadow sabotages not to harm you, but to keep you safe in invisibility. The shadow also disguises itself as escape. The drink, the binge, the endless scrolling. These are not just bad habits. They are ways the shadow speaks. Addiction says, you are starving for something you've denied. Pleasure, release, freedom. The more you repress these needs, the louder the addiction grows. It is the shadow's crude attempt to bring balance, to give you in excess what you refused in moderation. Few places reveal the shadow more brutally than relationships. The abandoned child clings too tightly, suffocating the very love they fear to lose. The criticized child pushes partners away before they can be rejected again. The silenced child chooses partners who won't listen, reenacting the original wound. What looks like heartbreak from the outside is often the shadow reenacting the past, demanding the old story be seen. Sometimes sabotage comes suddenly. You hold yourself together for months, maybe years, then collapse. You quit the job impulsively. You end the relationship without explanation. You walk away from the dream you spent years building. This collapse is not madness. It is the shadow rebelling. Jung said the psyche will not tolerate imbalance forever. If the conscious self refuses to listen, the unconscious will force its way in, tearing down what no longer serves the soul. Here lies the paradox. Sabotage feels like betrayal, but it often carries intelligence. Procrastination reveals fear or perfectionism that must be faced. Addiction reveals unmet needs for pleasure, freedom, or rest. Toxic love reveals the wounds of the child still longing for healing. Collapse reveals a life built on masks instead of truth. The shadow sabotage is not only to wound, but to reveal. Every act of self-destruction hides a message. This is what you have denied. This is what you must face. Self-sabotage is the shadow's strategy. Through procrastination, addiction, toxic love, and collapse, it drags your attention back to the parts of yourself you've buried. It is not only destruction, it is the unconscious demanding balance. If sabotage happened only once, we might shrug it off as coincidence. But Jung noticed something darker. Self-sabotage repeats. The same mistakes, the same collapses, the same heartbreaks. It feels less like chance and more like law, as though some hidden force is determined to drag you back into the same suffering again and again. Jung's insight was simple, but haunting. What you refuse to face will return. The unconscious does not forget. If you exile a trait, if you bury a wound, it will reappear in your life until you finally acknowledge it. That's why procrastination haunts you in every new job. Why addiction mutates into new forms. Why every lover feels different at first, but ends in the same despair. The shadow is repeating itself, hoping that repetition will break through denial. This is why sabotage feels fated. You say, I always ruin opportunities. I always choose the wrong person. I always collapse right when things are going well. It feels like destiny, like a curse written into your bones. But Jung would correct you. It is not fate. It is compulsion. The unconscious is replaying the old wound like a scratched record, looping the same refrain until you stop dancing blindly to its tune. At the heart of repetition are the beliefs formed in childhood. If I succeed, I'll be punished. If I love, I'll be abandoned. If I speak, I'll be silenced. These beliefs drive the cycle. They are not true, but they feel true. And until they are exposed, the shadow will keep finding ways to confirm them, by sabotaging your every attempt to prove them wrong. The unconscious is infinitely patient. It does not care if it takes years, decades, a lifetime. It will send you the same patterns again and again. The lover who abandons, the success that crumbles, the self-doubt that wins. Not because it wants to destroy you, but because it wants to wake you. The repetition is not punishment, it is summons. The cycle of sabotage repeats because the psyche will not rest until you face what you've buried. What feels like fate is the unconscious insisting, "Look here, this is yours. Claim it." Every act of sabotage carries a message. But what happens when you don't listen? Jung warned that ignoring the shadow does not silence it, it strengthens it. The enemy within grows bolder, more destructive, more demanding. And the cost of denial is paid not just in moments of failure, but in the slow erosion of your entire life. At first, the price is practical. You miss deadlines, you lose jobs, you walk away from chances that could have changed your life. From the outside, it looks like bad luck or poor discipline. From the inside, it feels like a curse. But these lost opportunities are not accidents. They are the shadow's tax, the price you pay for refusing to face what drives you. Then the cost moves deeper. The partners who loved you leave, exhausted by the sabotage you can't explain. Friendships decay under the weight of envy, resentment, or silence. You begin to believe the cruel lie, "I destroy everything I touch," but it is not you destroying them. It is the enemy within, rising each time intimacy threatens to expose the wound you've buried. Every act of sabotage leaves behind residue, shame. You promise yourself you'll do better, only to repeat the same mistake. You begin to lose trust in yourself, and when self-trust erodes, life itself feels unstable. How can you build anything if the ground beneath you always gives way? This shame is not random. It is the voice of the complex, the child within you saying, "See, I told you it wasn't safe. I told you it wouldn't last." The deepest cost of ignoring sabotage is existential. Life begins to feel hollow, scripted, meaningless. You feel like you are drifting, like the story of your life is being written by someone else, because it is. The shadow is at the pen, replaying the same loops while the self sits exiled from its throne. Jung warned that this is the real danger, not that you will fail, not that you will be rejected, but that you will never live as your whole self. That you will spend your life playing out the strategies of a wounded child instead of becoming the person you were meant to be. And in the end, perhaps this is the cruelest cost. Not the failures you endured, but the life you never lived. The book unwritten, the love unchosen, the potential abandoned, the years sacrificed to fear and sabotage. Because while you fought the enemy within, you forgot the truth. The enemy was never meant to rule you. It was meant to be faced, integrated, transformed. The cost of ignoring sabotage is not just lost opportunities or broken relationships. It is the risk of an unlived life. The shadow will rule until you claim it. And if you never do, the story of your life will never truly be your own. Jung never saw sabotage as mere weakness. He saw it as the unconscious demanding recognition. The shadow sabotages to get your attention. The way out, then, is not to fight harder, hustle more, or shame yourself into discipline. The way out is to face the enemy within and transform it into an ally. Step 1. Recognition. The first step is awareness. The next time you feel yourself procrastinating, picking a fight, or ruining what you love, pause. Ask, is this truly me, or is this my shadow speaking? Naming the sabotage doesn't erase it, but it loosens its grip. The moment you recognize it as shadow work, not failure, you shift from shame to curiosity. Step 2. Ask what the sabotage protects. Every act of sabotage hides intelligence. Ask yourself, what is this protecting me from? The procrastination may protect you from the shame of imperfection. The jealousy may protect you from the terror of abandonment. The collapse may protect you from the risk of being truly seen. When you find the hidden motive, sabotage becomes less like betrayal and more like a misguided guardian. Step 3. Shadow work. The shadow must be brought into the light. Begin by writing down the traits you despise in others, or the traits you secretly envy. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Those traits are often your shadow. Instead of condemning them, admit, this too is me. The more you own consciously, the less the shadow needs to act unconsciously through sabotage. Step 4. Active imagination. Jung's boldest tool was active imagination, entering dialogue with the figures of the unconscious. Picture your sabotage as a figure, the procrastinator, the addict, the jealous lover. Sit across from them in your mind. Ask, why are you here? What do you want from me? The answers may surprise you. Often the figure will confess, I want you to rest. I want you to be free. I want you to protect yourself. These voices are not random. They are parts of you long ignored, demanding to be heard. Step 5. Integration. Integration is the heart of Jung's method. It means taking back what you've exiled. The anger you repressed becomes healthy boundaries. The ambition you buried becomes purposeful drive. The desire you denied becomes intimacy instead of sabotage. Integration doesn't mean indulging every impulse. It means allowing the shadow a seat at the table instead of letting it hijack the throne. Step 6. Individuation. The final step is individuation, Jung's term for becoming whole. It is the process of uniting the conscious and unconscious, bringing the shadow into harmony with the self. When individuation begins, sabotage no longer rules you. You still feel the urges, the fears, the resistance, but they no longer control the story. The self, not the shadow, sits on the throne. The way to end self-sabotage is not to fight the enemy within, but to meet it. Recognize the sabotage, uncover what it protects, face the shadow, speak to it, integrate it, and let the self rule once more. When you do, the enemy ceases to be your captor and becomes your ally. Return now to the woman with the dream job. She sits at her desk, the deadline looming, the old panic rising. Normally, she would freeze, scroll, procrastinate until the opportunity collapsed. But this time, she pauses. She hears the enemy within whispering, if you fail, you'll be shamed. If you succeed, you'll be exposed. Instead of obeying, she breathes. She answers softly, I hear you, but I'm not a child anymore. I can handle this. The grip loosens. She picks up her pen and begins to write. Across the city, the man with the partner who loves him feels jealousy rise like a storm. Normally, he would lash out, accuse, drive her away before she could abandon him. But this time, he catches himself. He hears the voice of the abandoned child. Don't trust her. Don't let her in. You'll be left again. He closes his eyes and answers, I know you're afraid, but she is not the past. She is here, and so am I. The child inside softens. Instead of pushing her away, he takes her hand. For the first time, love feels safe. This is what Jung meant when he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The woman's procrastination was not laziness, it was fear. The man's jealousy was not cruelty, it was a child's cry. And the moment they recognized the shadow, the sabotage lost its power. The enemy within was never the true enemy. It was a guardian, misguided but loyal, fighting old battles in the present. Once faced, once heard, it transformed. Self-sabotage is not weakness. It is the shadow's cry to be seen. Ignore it, and it will ruin you. Face it, and it becomes your teacher. Integrate it, and it becomes your ally. So the next time you find yourself ruining what you love, pause. Don't ask, what's wrong with me? Ask instead, what part of me is trying to be heard right now? Because the day you listen is the day sabotage stops being your destiny and starts being your doorway to wholeness. If this spoke to you, subscribe to FactSpire TV, not for easy answers, not for masks, but for truths that unmask the enemy within and give you back your life.